The Revelation Explained by F. G. Smith. Chapter 6, Part 6. We begin with the Book of Revelation, Chapter 6, verses 12 through 17. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? We continue now with the commentary. Upon the opening of this seal, the scene changes again. The symbols are drawn from an entirely different source. We are taken out of the department of civil life into the scenes of nature, which is a clear evidence that the history of the Church is no longer under consideration. Had God intended to here continue her history, he would no doubt have employed symbols derived from the same source as those preceding, so as to prevent our being led astray. No more horsemen or living characters appear, but we behold the most terrific convulsions of nature, a mighty earthquake, the darkening of the sun and the moon, the falling of the stars, and finally the dissolution of the heavens, together with the mountains and the islands being removed. If the history of the Church is no longer under consideration, this great change of symbols directs us with absolute certainty into the political and civil world for their fulfillment. Of course, we are not to suppose that this is a literal description. In this manner, the dignity and the excellence in the use and the interpretations of symbols is preserved. To describe the religious history of the Church, noble symbols chosen from the department of human life are selected, while symbols drawn from an inferior department, that of nature, are chosen to represent political affairs. This point will appear very clear as we proceed in the interpretation of the Apocalypse. It is just what we might naturally expect. The question may be asked, if these symbols from nature represent political affairs, where in the events of civil history shall we look for their fulfillment? Every one will readily perceive the analogy between an earthquake and a political revolution, when all society is in a state of agitation, as when the solid earth trembles. It is also evident that the sun, moon, and stars bear the same analogous relationship to the earth that kings, rulers, and princes do to the body politic, while the firmament of heaven is analogous to the entire fabric of civil government, the symbolic heaven in which the symbolic orbs are set to give light. The symbols, then, point us to the most terrible revolutions, when society is in a state of agitation, when kingdoms are overthrown and their rulers and princes thrown from their positions, or made objects of the most gloomy terror. Yea, when the entire fabric of civil government is finally overthrown, and all the institutions and organizations of society are swept away as with a tornado. This is the time of consternation to the great men of earth, when they shall hide themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and say to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? This is the time that the martyrs looked forward to when they cried, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? A large portion of the Apocalypse is occupied with the history of these persecuting powers, civil and ecclesiastical. It is their dominacy that constitutes the long period of tribulation to the church, when the witnesses prophesy in sackcloth, and the faithful are ground into the dust by the feet of these proud oppressors, as they stand in the high places of the earth. But the cries of the slaughtered saints have ascended to the throne as incense. God speaks. The judgments of heaven descend upon these lofty ones, and a voice from heaven declares, quote, They have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. End quote. This is surely a striking combination of symbols, and the way they are arranged would indicate that their fulfillment occupied a considerable period of time. First, we have a great earthquake. Afterwards, the darkening of the sun and the moon, with the falling of the stars, and finally the dissolution of the heavens themselves, with the sweeping away of mountains and islands. This description covers the same period as that described under the 7 last plagues, beginning with certain fearful revolutions in which the nations that had slaughtered the millions of God's people were given blood to drink, and ending finally in the great day of his wrath, that shall sweep them from their positions eternally. The full explanation of these events cannot at present be appreciated by the reader. Therefore, I reserve it for the future to be more fully developed under other symbols. In these 6 seals we have a vivid outline of mighty events, political and ecclesiastical, extending from the earliest stage of Christianity to the end of time. This description, in advance, was no mere human production. No human foresight would have detected, and no mortal mind would have conceived events so wonderful and so far-reaching in their character. Any other history would sooner have been imagined. It takes divine wisdom to understand the true position of the Church in the present, and she can scarcely read her past history by natural wisdom alone, much less outline the future. First, the establishment of Christianity is symbolized. Then the violence of the pagan party, the apostasy, and final establishment of the man of sin, until the millions of earth are crushed by the spiritual tyranny or by the arm of civil power, and the cry of the martyrs goes up, How long, O Lord? But they are told to rest a little season, when they shall witness the hand of God laid upon these persecuting nations of earth, convulsing them in the most fearful revolutions, and ending finally in their complete overthrow, in that last great day of God Almighty.